Welcome back to the Style and Strategy podcast. Today, I'm going to start a conversation on a topic that's foundational for anyone really looking to stand out in their career or business. And that is all about how to create a visual signature for your personal brand. So, this is so much more than fashion. So, I want you to tune in. Get your notes out, or if you're out on a walk and you got your earpods on, just listen in and really take note of some of these key elements I'm going to cover off on today, because it's really around focusing on your visual presence and aligning that with your expertise and making sure you're leaving a lasting impression every single time that you show up.
I'm Sonia, a personal brand and style coach. My journey began in the corporate world and through lived experiences has led me where I am today. I've walked in those uncomfortable shoes, faced the same challenges and questioned my path to professional success while simultaneously navigating my personal style journey and the challenges that each decade brings. I wholeheartedly believe in the fusion of personal brand and style strategy. My mission here is to provide you with practical, actionable strategies and lived experiences to help you unlock your next level of success through the power of personal brand and style. Let's get started.
So let's start by defining, what is a visual signature, right? So I want you to think about it as something that is consistent. There's some recognizable, perhaps, elements of the way that your style communicates who you are, even before you say a word, right? It's the way people remember you. Or it could be a, specific color palette, or it could be a particular style of clothing. It's just like your brand, your visual signature should actually be quite intentional. And this is certainly not about blending in. It's about standing out your way in a way that's natural and really reflective of your core values. So, as a bit of an example, I want you to think about public figures that we've seen that really do this well, right? So I'm going to name some names and give you a second to just think about what pops up in your mind instantly. So for those of you, well, I think anyone would know if I say the word Steve Jobs, what do you think of instantly? Yes, you think of Apple, but what else do you think of? Most people will say the black skivvy and the denim jeans, right? He was absolutely synonymous for that. For those of you who follow a little bit of fashion, Vogue editor Anna Wintour, right? Her bob haircut, her choker necklace, and those, large round sunnies, again, synonymous for who she is. So really those elements became part of their personal brand and really communicated something about their personality and leadership style. So I know you're probably thinking at the moment, well, hang on, I've never thought of it that way. Yeah, maybe it does show their personality, but how does it actually show their leadership style? So I'm going to get into that a little bit more. So the next sort of stage to really think about here is, why does visual choices even matter, right? Isn't it just about comfort, style, and if you've listened to some of my episodes before, you would know that, yes, all of those other elements play a role, but your visual choices matter because they shape perception, whether we like it or not, or we believe that, the world's moved on from that. It's still there regardless. And it's not about dressing for someone else. It's actually crafting a brand and a visual perception that resonates you and who you are. For those that know me, I like to be able to, validate sort of things that I have gone and researched and found. And I have talked in previous episodes as well around that, people will form an opinion about you within 7 seconds of really meeting you. So that's a lot of pressure, right? But here's the thing, our brains are wired to make those snap judgments based on those visual cues. It doesn't mean that they're going to be there forever, but it might be what you're wearing, it might be the way you're standing, all of those things could potentially impact. And so, if you're wanting to be seen as an expert and as a leader in your field or industry, your visual signature, you've got a real opportunity to communicate that authority and that credibility that you already have and really exemplify it. So, for example, think about, darker or richer colors and how they potentially play a role. So, they say that, darker colors like navy or forest green or things like that can evoke trust and stability, while pops of color like red or mustard yellow can signal a creative energy. But here's when it gets really interesting, it's not just about what they see, it's also around how you feel in those clothes, which takes me back to why I say it's not about dressing for someone else, right? Because how you feel in those clothes can play a massive role on how confident you actually then appear. And so when your visual signature is really in alignment on how you want to be perceived, then not only will you feel more confident, but guess what? Others in that room can actually pick up on that energy. And in the end, it's about that energetic sort of frequency that you're portraying. So it's about, connecting all those dots so that you can get on with doing what you do best and demonstrate that and really reinforce, who you are. So let's now take it a step even further. How do you actually build a visual signature that aligns with your personal brand? So the key is really to start with those core brand values. So if, for example, one of your values is, empathetic leadership or things like that, you might want to look at, well, how do I balance a little bit of structure and a little bit of flow into your outfits? Because the structure will give you that. And when I say structure, I'm referring to things that are potentially more fitted or tailored in their appeal versus and balancing that with, maybe more flowy dresses, that type of thing. Because by doing that, you're actually going to show a balance of that empathetic side versus the leadership structure, what is kind of traditionally known. And it doesn't have to be those tailored pieces traditionally, like a pair of a blazer or something like that. It could be other items that exist that could actually bring through that message as well. Another example of this is if you are more creative, you might want to show that. So, it could be creative, it could be innovative, but you might want to show that with a bit of a twist, right? So it might be a couple of accessories of some type, like a bit bolder than you would normally, or maybe some interesting textures that you're starting to play with, right? Because that then starts to differentiate. So it doesn't always mean wearing the same thing over and over again, which is also kind of like, in that Steve Jobs scenario. It's not like a style uniform, but there's elements of that, right? Because I know that many of you can get very bored if you don't have that variety in your wardrobe. But what you really want to do is make sure whatever you pick as that visual signature cue is really clear and memorable, because you might be surprised how quickly someone starts to associate those visual cues with you. And I'd love for you to think about, other individuals that might be in your circle or your broader, workplace or anything like that, and think, is anyone utilizing this? Am I seeing a visual cue somewhere that maybe I haven't noticed before? So sometimes where you can get tripped up on this is that you think that a visual cue or a visual signature means following a particular trend, always looking on trend, that type of thing. But it's not that, right? Because we all know that trends will come and go, and trends are actually quite circular. Usually it's over that 20-year period, right? And we'll see those come and go. But I'm all about building a personal brand that is built to last, right? So that's why your visual signature needs to be really fundamentally based in who you are and not what's currently necessarily on the runway. Yes, you can incorporate some of those pieces, but fundamentally we need to get clear on the personal brand element, who you are, who you want to show up as, what is important to you. And that's why a lot of the work that I do starts in that space. Many people think that I'll go straight to the wardrobe or I'll go straight to style boards and things like that. And it's absolutely not. You know, those first sessions are absolutely getting to understand you, because it doesn't matter what I could put on you. If I don't understand, and if you don't understand very clearly of where you want to take things, then I could put anything on you. And if I go back to those previous steps I talked to, that spark, that connection between who you are and that visual representation won't bring out that confidence and energy that we're looking for. So here are now probably a few steps that you can think about around this. So one is identify your core brand values. What are your top three? You know, it might be leadership, innovation, approachability, creativity. What are those and how could they translate to your wardrobe? You know, does leadership to you look like crisp, clean lines, a power color? Or does approachability mean softer fabrics, earthy tones? Think about that. Two, do a bit of an audit of your current wardrobe. What are you wearing consistently? Are there unintentional visual signatures that you're already creating, good or bad? Are there pieces that don't actually align where you want your brand to go? And you should be letting go of those. Then I want you to really think about curating some signature elements, you know, and that for the objective and the purpose of creating recognition and reliability and trust and all of those. Then move on to testing and refining, because when you start wearing those chosen elements, you'll start to notice how you feel, how others respond, and whether that visual signature is becoming a living part of your brand. So, after listening to the steps you've heard of and thinking about a couple of those examples that I have talked about, you can start to really see that your visual signature is really a powerful tool in your personal brand toolkit. So when it's done right, your audience, your colleagues, your clients will start to recognize, even subconsciously, your expertise before you even say a word. So I want you to let me know, what is your visual signature going to be? I'd love to hear your thoughts about one element that you think you will move forward to do differently. And you can always DM me or tag me on that. And if you're ready to take something like this even deeper, feel free to book a complimentary brand and style audit with me so we can start to set that strategy up and identify where some of those gaps might be. And you can find more details on that in the show notes, because it's all about, when you're building that personal brand, starting to be a little bit more strategic in the way that you think about. So when it comes to building your personal brand, it's actually starting to think a little bit more strategically around, how do you build this differently? And that's where I can come in. I hope you've taken away some interesting insights from this episode, and let me know.
Thank you so much for being part of this inspiring episode. If you found value in today's discussion, please don't keep it a secret. Share it with a friend on social media, tag me at Your Style Collective, and leave a review. Your support means the world. Join me again next week for another empowering episode of Style and Strategy, the Leadership Series. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, you're already taking that first step towards your transformation journey. See you next time.